Why would anyone want to join a monastery? What drives someone to abandon all of their hopes and dreams, their goals and objectives for happiness in this world, leave it all behind, and go to an ashram dedicated to nothing but the selfless service of God? My name is Stevie Saranga, and I was a Hindu monk for 10 years living at an ashram on top of a hill in Scotland. And I'm going to try and answer this question. I can't actually speak for anybody but myself, so I'll give you my reasons why I made that decision. And just sitting on this, I'm actually sitting on a on a birthing ball. It's a bit bouncy because I'm not a monk anymore. I'm a married man now, and we've had 2 babies. But that's another story. So, even in the Bhagavad Gita, it gives some reasons why someone might turn to God out of distress, out of wanting something. Pray to God, give me a colour. What is it? Lord, won't you buy me a Mercedes Benz? My friends all drive Porsches. I must make amends. Worked hard all my lifetime and help from my friends. Lord, won't you buy me a Mercedes Benz? So someone might pray to God for the Mercedes Benz or a colour TV or whatever it is they want. Pray to God for something. Turn to God if you're in distress. Like, oh my God, I'm falling off this cliff. God, please help me. And other reasons you might want to turn to God, curious or genuinely want to just find out about God. But yeah, they're not necessarily reasons why someone might join a monastery, but at the same time they are reasons why someone might join a monastery. But for me, right, get away from problems, escape. Yeah, escapism. Yeah, for me, I needed to escape from my town where I grew up and the people who I was growing up with. I just wanted to get away from it all, make a fresh start. I'd done quite well as a young man. Sporting success, academic success, and by all external estimations, a successful person. But even through all of that, what would appear to be external success, I felt as though there was something lacking inside. I felt hollow, like one time I got I was about 8 or 9, I think, or maybe even younger, but we entered this competition at infant school. It was to fit. It was at Easter time, and it was to fit as many things as you could into a matchbox. And my dad took up the challenge with a lot of enthusiasm, and he managed to get about 256 different objects into this matchbox, and I won the competition. Well, my dad won it. He all kinds of tiny little things in there, little seeds like a mustard seed. A black mustard seed, a white mustard seed, a tiny piece of red cotton, a piece of green cotton, a piece of black cotton. So many things. You got them all in there. So I won a chocolate rabbit, and I saw it and I thought, wow, and I thought it was solid. I thought it was a solid chocolate rabbit. So I was like, wow, look at that, so much chocolate. And then when I kind of, tried to eat it, I discovered, oh my God, it's hollow. It's hollow. It's just, so much less quantity of chocolate than I had, presumed there to be there, and very disappointed. So anyway, yeah, I was a bit of a Christian myself, in the younger days. We were encouraged to. This fantastic fella came into infant school, and he told us all about God, and told us that he's your best friend, and you can just speak to him, pray to him whenever you want. I was quite young at that time, and so I did regularly all the time, praying, speaking to God. Fantastic. But as I was a teenager, like 13 or 14, got into girls and drinking and smoking and just forgot all about God. But by the time I was in my late teens, I was feeling very hollow, just like that chocolate rabbit. I felt like I'm just like on the outside, and then inside just completely empty, nothing inside. And until I reconnected with God, and reconnected with God through prayer, through chanting God's names in the Hindu tradition, some of God's names, reciting those names in prayer, like over and over again for a long time, an hour, 2 hours a day. That was the practice of being a monk. But it was that made me feel complete again, satisfied, connected with God, the sovereign God, the creator. The descriptions I hear about God when I go down to my local church, and then on a Sunday morning, then on a Sunday afternoon go up to the Hindu temple, and this very similar descriptions, which can only conclude are referring to the same person. Other people will contest that. No, our God worships, our religion worships this God. Your religion worships that God. There's one God. There's one sun in the sky. There's one God. Developing that relationship. I'm developing my relationship with God through a particular tradition. You could say following a practicing Hindu. You could say, well, you're not worshipping the Christian God, but I'm worshipping God, and developing that relationship further. And so I would never negate anyone else's religion or anyone else's religious practice. It's just that I found this particular path, so that's what I'm practicing. Not to ever minimize anybody else's practice. But yeah, I was drifting through life, and I was always looking for something which I could latch onto, something that would give me some consistency, something that would just any kind of permanence in life. I mean, I was as a young fella, then I was changing. If I came up against any kind of problem, I would just think, okay, I don't want to deal with this problem. I'll move on. I'll leave that problem behind me, and just move on like a rolling stone gathers no moss. Pack my bag, and move on. Like that song. What is it? The Littlest Hobo. Maybe one day I'll wanna settle down. Until tomorrow, I'll just keep moving on. That one. If there was a problem in a relationship, some kind of difficulty, I would just be like, okay, no probs. Whatever it is, you don't like me or whatever. See you later. I'll be fine. I'll manage. A problem with a job, like I had a job in a hotel, working behind a bar, and the manager, there was some problem with the till. I'd pressed the button a few too many times, and he was like, "Oh, you're stealing out of the till. Where's your tip money?" And I was like, "If you don't trust me, even just to, if you want me to work here, you have to trust me. If you don't trust me, then what's the point?" So I was like, "Okay, see you later." So again, just move on from town to town, and. Yeah, but through all of that, not like hanging in there and enduring like the rough with the smooth, and just I felt that it was I wasn't you got to stay in one place to develop deeper relationships with others. get to really know people and become, friends who understand each other. So I never. I thought, well, there's something lacking. I can't just keep. Whenever I hit a problem, hit up against a hurdle, just sack it off. And I need to stick where I am and work through those problems, whatever they are, and in that way develop as a person, rather than run away from the problems, face them and deal with them. So I thought I actually need to settle down somewhere, and through all of those changing factors in life, like the house we lived in, we got a flat we lived in, got evicted. A relationship. I was always looking for something steady that I could rely on, something that I could depend on. Like if it was a relationship with a partner, or even a relationship with a friend, or a relationship with a parent, or a job, or even a hobby. It was difficult even to always, for whatever reason, if I had a hobby which was a sport, I'd get injured, and okay, I can't do that anymore for a few months. So there was, but anyway, when it came down to it, I thought, well, the only thing I can ever rely on and depend on is my relationship with God. That's the only anchor that is going to be consistent through all of these other changing factors, and philosophic, and studying like the Bhagavad Gita, I understood that the nature of the material world is that it is a place of constant change. That is the only consistent thing. It is a place of constant change, constant flux. Everything's in motion, and there's nothing you can depend on, nothing I could depend on, other than my internal relationship with God, with the Maker. Eventually I stopped just carrying on, moving on, and I thought, well, I'll at least this the group of people living at the monastery, living around the monastery. I thought they're as good as any group. I'm going to stick it out here and put my roots down and see what happens. So that's what I did. Thought I'd give it a try. These people here, as good as any of us. And I wanted to get away from the home crew crowd. We were drinking and smoking, and I thought these like they're not big bad habits. They're just everyone really has a drink and a smoke. But my life wasn't really going anywhere. In my home time, no job prospects. I'd studied a degree in philosophy, but I didn't really want to join a kind of, use that qualification for the kind of well-paid job I could have got, doing some kind of admin role, because I thought it's a road to nowhere. That's what I thought. It's a road to nowhere. Although it's a road. It is a road. It's a road to a nice house, a nice car, a settled life, enough wealth to raise a family. It is a road, but at that point in my life, I thought, no, I don't want to take that road. I think, because I thought, well, I think there's something more. There's something more to look for. What is the essence, of what is the there was something I couldn't really put my finger on, but I just know there's something more, like a bit like when Björk, she sings in one song, there must be more to life than this, more to life than this. That one, and music. I guess music, and other cultural inputs. I can't think of any films, but in music, people are artists in touch with the creative side, are kind of more in tune. We could say in tune with the cosmos. I don't know if they are, but anyway, just an inkling that there is something beyond this kind of humdrum, mundane existence, of going to work and getting home, having pie and chips, maybe going out for a pint on a Friday, have a pint of bitter, some just like, well, is this is this all there is? Is there not something better? What about you know blissful joy? And I know people take ecstasy pills or this pill or that pill or this substance, that substance, and they experience that. I just had a conviction that these things are all accessible without like what I would describe as an artificial pill, because the thing is with all the drugs is that you get that what is it, some sort of diminishing returns. So you've always got to, it makes you feel happy, blissful, ecstatic, but then after you go back to a level which is below what you were before, and you keep getting down and down, and you've got to take more and more and more. So I had a conviction that there was something in a book I read, like something like getting stoned on fresh air, getting drunk, intoxicated just by drinking water, and I heard about these Buddhist guys. This friend of mine told me, old Pete, told me he was this old guy I met. He was walking his dog around the fields around Chorley, and I made friends with this guy. I was on the last year of my philosophy course. He recommended me to read some good books, which were a bit more lucid, a bit more exciting than the kind of dry, boring academic books I was reading on the course. So I read. He recommended Carl Jung, Man and His Symbols. I didn't get through that. It was a bit too dense for me. But a good one I read was Carlos Castaneda, Teachings of Don Juan. That was a great book. I really like that book in the way it introduces the relationship between the, you could say, the guru and the disciple. The same relationship as you get between King Arthur and Merlin. Merlin's like his mentor. So I read that book, and he recommended another one as well, David Spangler, The Laws of Manifestation. He was a dude who was up in the Findhorn community, which I have visited a couple of times since. I managed to get a copy of that book. It was difficult to get. I had to order it from the library, but I don't think I really got into that book either. But this guy, old Pete, was kind of like was himself kind of like a mentor, and he recommended, actually he recommended that I come to this monastery. He'd met some of the monks from this place on the street in Chorley, and on his basis he recommended it, and I got another recommendation from another person who was at university together, who dropped out after his second year. I was doing philosophy, he was doing ancient history and archaeology, and he just buggered off and joined the monastery after the end of the second year. And I seen him again like a couple of years later, and he was doing really well in it. So on the basis of his recommendation as well, so 2 recommendations, I thought, well, I'll give it a go. I'll go up there, see how it goes. And I've been here 15 years, 10 years as a monk, and still hanging about, helping out with a few bits and bobs round about the place since then, when I have time, when I'm not too busy at home looking after the family. So another reason I wanted to join the monastery was to get myself together. Yeah, I've kind of touched on that, drinking, smoking. But I was sat at home one day in my bedroom, and I knew about some of the, you could say, injustices in the world. One of them which really perturbed myself was I found about the problem of third world debt, which, to describe it in a nutshell, is big Western countries, European countries, America, loaning out money to African nations, but then charging a lot of interest. So much so that the whole nation is kind of like in a debt that it can't afford to pay back. So they just have to constantly pay money to back to repay the loans from Western countries. It's called third world debt, Yeah, it seems like these big Western countries have got these African nations, got them over a barrel, and they just tell them like, right, you have to supply us with so many coffee beans, you've got to supply us with so much sugar. I don't know if it's refined or raw. You've got to supply us with all of our basic, all of these raw ingredients and like. We up at the farm where I've been working. The monastery has a farm. I've been working on the farm for a few years. We get volunteers, woofers. We had a lad from Guatemala who was telling me that how he was. You could see he was actually really pissed off about the situation there in Guatemala. He said all the best bananas you all get shipped out, and then myself, my family, the people who live there, we get all these just all the ones that aren't good enough to ship out, crappy black bananas or whatever. So he was visibly pissed off about that situation. And to be honest, I mean, the situation hasn't really changed much, I don't think, from what you hear about these colonial times of the British people, the British soldiers, British Empire going around the world, fighting battles, killing people, enslaving people, starting all these big colonies of producing cotton and sugar and rice, whatever they want, and enslaving the people to work on plantations. Like we all know about the cotton plantations from America with black slaves. I mean, that's kind of well documented in films like 12 Years a Slave, and I watched the Underground Railroad series. So other in the media, in the film, people have access to that kind of bringing history to life. But yeah, I think the same kind of thing was going on all around the world in British and other European colonies. And it practically hasn't really changed. It hasn't really changed since then. With what I learned about third world debt and coffee. I watched a TV documentary about it, and coffee plantations, coffee bean production in West Africa, and all the land is put over to coffee bean production, so much so that the people who work there don't even have their own land to grow their own food. They have to work all the time in the coffee plantation. They get a bit of money, and then they have to use that money to purchase the things that they need to live, to eat, and those things are probably overpriced and they're probably poor quality. And anyway, it's a sorry state of affairs. So finding out about this injustice in particular and other injustices, I just thought, well, this is just wrong. This is plain wrong. It certainly is awful. But who am I? I was finding out about this. I was sat in my bedroom. I was a dope smoking bum, a layabout. Unemployed, dirty. Couldn't even get myself together. Smelly, stinky, no job, addicted to drugs. And I was like, these things are wrong in the world, but who the hell's going to listen to me? I'm just who am I? Just a no-hoper in the gutter, down and out, depressed, mental health problems. So I thought, well, I need to get myself together. I need to somehow pick myself up, pull myself up by my, pull my socks up, pull myself up by my bootlaces, and somehow at least try and get myself together, so that at least then there's a hope, like a cat in hell's chance. Maybe somebody will listen to what I got to say if I ever talk about these things. So anyway, yeah, I thought that and then the opportunity to go to a monastery. Well, I mean, it's in some ways it's similar to a rehab. I mean, there are a lot of rehabs around the country, and what I do know about them is the ones which are focused on God, which have God as a included in the whole, like the way they pitch it, to the people who go there. I mean, there's one. It's called Teen Challenge, somewhere up on the east coast of Scotland. I met some guys in a minibus, parked up. I think they were on what's that town called up in the northeast? It's Fraserburgh, and there's another town near there as well. Met them there, but yeah, they were helping people get off heroin, and the success rate is shown, it's proven. I mean, even the 12-step program, it appeals to a higher power, and it's much more successful than if you don't appeal to a higher power, and it's just a kind of you could say an atheistic rehabilitation program. It's known, it's proven these are much less successful. So in some ways, a monastery does take on people who have got a history of problems, alcoholism, drug addiction, sex addiction, and helps to fix them up through a program of strict routine, daily routine, doing the same thing every day, keeping them busy, keeping busy. I was kept busy. I didn't have a day off for the first 2 years, and then another 2 years after that, we had an occasional day off. So busy, keeping yourself busy, keeping the mind occupied, and appealing to the power of God to keep us on the straight and narrow and not let us fall back down into alcohol and drugs and whatever else it is, sex addiction. So yeah, that's one reason that I wanted to join the monastery, to help give myself that chance to be the best version of myself. So that then I did want to help others, but I thought, well, yeah, how can I help others if I don't help myself first? So first of all, fix myself up, like someone's drowning in a river. You jump in, you start drowning as well. You have to be safe on the bank, throw the rope in and help pull them out. First get yourself on the riverbank. But I wanted to get myself together, and I got involved in politics. Extreme politics. It seems like the world is in quite. I mean, that's just one person's observation. It seems like things are so extremely bad. Although that's not necessarily true. But extreme politics, anarchism, communism. These extreme political positions. They want to try and offer a solution to what they see as big problems in the world. And anyway, from my point of view, I thought, well, politics, it's not really, it isn't going to solve the problems, because, well, for a start, hardly anybody even cares to vote these days. People just have lost faith in politics. I thought, yeah, it does need something that is more relevant to people's lives, something that penetrates deeper into people's lives, And well, I don't like the word religion. I think religion is kind of like the external face of the external shell of spirituality, genuine life transformational spirituality. That's what I think, that is what society needs to save it from its problems, if it does indeed need to be saved. Maybe it doesn't. Anyway, I've benefited myself a lot from my involvement with like meditational practice and study of Bhagavad Gita and other spiritual books, and I feel yeah, I mean, I can only describe my own experience, but yeah, I feel a lot happier, a lot more fixed up, a lot more determined, and I feel my life has has purpose, it has meaning, and yeah, it's fantastic really. I can only describe my own life since beginning to meditate, since beginning to recite the names of God, that my life is I won't even describe it as even to describe it as better or improved isn't doing justice to the transformation. It's like one of the guys who was going to one of my friends going to the group I was in. He was like, it's giving you a new lease of life. You seem to have, it's like turning over a new leaf. But it's kind of like being reborn. It was like an experience of like being reborn, as though I was dead before, with the hollow, empty, emptiness of life, and then I felt as though I was whole again by connecting with God. That's my experience. Another reason I wanted to come and live at the ashram is to study the books, the ancient books of India, ancient philosophical, theosophical books. I'd studied for 3 years at Liverpool University doing a degree in philosophy, and whilst it was something that was beneficial and gave me a kind of grounding, a kind of foundational basis in philosophy, at the same time, very theoretical, quite abstract, quite dry, not like not lucid and exciting. And some people might find it exciting. I'm sorry if to those people who do find such things exciting, but yeah, wasn't really like it wasn't like whisk you off your feet. This is amazing kind of philosophy. It was just to give an example. I did the philosophy course because I had a burning question. What is the purpose of life? What is the purpose of life in general? What is the meaning of life? Why has life come about? Human life, human consciousness, this freedom of thought, and freedom of just freedom to choose whatever we want to do. That's there in the human form of life. And exercising that freedom. People do all kinds of crazy things. But that's the freedom that's afforded in the human life. Look, let's compare to other forms of life. Like a badger. Like a badger living in the set there. It just it digs its hole. It hunts a little bit. I don't know what they eat. But it's not like the badger. It can't just decide one day. I'm going to. I want to climb Mount Everest, and start setting about how you would go about doing that, And the badger can't jump on a plane to Australia. I want to go see Australia. I want to see the world, or I want to be a doctor. I want to learn how to heal people. I'm trying to paint a picture. There's so much more opportunity in the human form of life, and I wanted to say, well, what is the meaning of life? This for me was the question that I wanted to answer, and I thought, okay, where's a good place to start? Let me enroll on the philosophy course and see if there's any answers there. And as well as these general questions, what is the purpose of life? What is the meaning of life? What is the purpose of my life? What is the meaning of my life? And actually, that I've discovered that is actually the question. It's a personal thing, It's a personal thing. I think everybody has their own purpose, a divine purpose. Why we're here on this planet, at this time, in this life, with this set of opportunities that have come our way. whether we're born in this country or that country. We all have a divine purpose to try to understand what it is, and then to try and execute and perform it. But studying at the university in Liverpool, I wasn't satisfied. I would ask the professors, what is the meaning of life, and they would and ah and quote this person, quote that person. Well, in the 16th century, such and such a person said this. I was like, but what do you think? Well, I wouldn't like to commit myself, So they're always just sitting on the fence, And unless, for me, philosophy is about applying it, and particularly coming in contact with the monks. They were out on the street. I bumped into them in Liverpool, in Manchester, in Bolton, in Preston, in Chorley, in Wigan, and they were working long hours. Working hard, and philosophy, having studied it, philosophy, yeah, I've heard this philosophy, I've heard that philosophy, yeah, philosophy, that's great, sounds great. Yeah, but what are you going to do? What are you going to practically do to help other people? Is this philosophy of any practical use? Is it completely abstract, completely theoretical? Okay, there is a value to that, to being able to, make it completely. We call it like pure mathematics, like 2 + 2 = 4. I'm trying to teach my daughter maths. 2 + 2 = 4. It's completely abstract. 2 of what? Or just two of something. Well, but if I'm trying to teach her maths, so you actually have to have two. Okay, here we go. You've got two wooden beads. Okay, and then you add 2 more wooden beads, and then you've got 4 wooden beads. So it's applied. You've got to apply it. There is a value to like being abstract and pure, what they call pure mathematics, completely abstract, pure philosophy, abstract, completely up in the air, it's completely ethereal, no relevance at all to everyday life. But for me, anyway, I think that's a weakness. I think that's a if it isn't of any practical value, I mean, I could argue it's useless. Not completely useless, but we do need to have practical application. So I was impressed with the monks that they may have a great philosophy, but they're actually really trying to do something. They're out there, they're working hard, they're making themselves available on the streets, like street pastors. My friend, colleague who we were going out, when I became a monk, we would be going out together on the streets for many years together, and he had a lot of people approaching him with life problems, asking him for advice, and he would take the time to listen to what they had to say and just offer whatever he could, whatever help he could, whatever advice he could. And I guess they saw him as someone who was impartial, someone who was detached from whatever the situation they were going through, and so what he had to say was of value, because and also because he himself was a practicing monk, someone who was really sincerely trying to connect with God, and someone who was dedicated to the practices of being a monk, hourly, 2-hour long meditation daily, and study of the scriptures. So therefore, you could therefore assume to some degree, or invest some faith that this person, although I've just met him on the street in whatever town he might be in, has got something valuable to contribute, to offer, ask for advice, and not dissimilar from recently. I had 8 counselling sessions, helping with some anxiety I was going through, and it was actually the counselling little group, company. They were a Christian-based, religious-based group who had set up their therapeutic counselling little organisation out of compassion, because people are suffering. Mental health is rife, and being able to talk about problems a problem shared is a problem halved. Being able to get stuff off your chest with someone does have therapeutic value. So the monks were offering that, as well as trying to distribute literature, books about how to, on the streets, how to connect with God. So they were out there doing something, and but as well as being out there, like one of the reasons I wanted to go was to be able to study those books, the books that were given out on the street, study those books, and learn about Eastern theology, Eastern philosophy. I'd studied at Liverpool Western philosophy. There was one lecturer who was a Buddhist guy. He gave a little course in Buddhism, very, very interesting. One module. But apart from that, very, very little Eastern philosophy, and very little small like acknowledgement of and understanding of Eastern theology and Eastern philosophy. Very, very Western centered course, syllabus, curriculum that I went through. And so I thought, well, there's a dearth of information here about Eastern philosophy, and although it was touched on by the Buddhist on the Buddhist course, I thought, well, I don't really know anything about this Eastern philosophy, and there's always, for me at least, there's always been a kind of allure to the East, and a kind of inkling, and a just through, I don't know where I got it from, but through my dad's music actually. There was a song by a guitarist, I don't know if he's American or British, but Mike Cooper, singing about going to the East, about the hippie trail, about the hippies going to the East. Why were they going there? What were they looking for? What is it that they thought was they were going to find there in India, in the East, that wasn't on the marketplace of ideas here in Europe and America? What was that? What is that they're searching for, and why do they think they're going to find it over there? Well, similarly myself, having studied Western philosophy, wanting to know what is the meaning of life, still not found it. Okay, well, I want to find out about Eastern philosophy. Maybe they know what the meaning of life is. Maybe somebody over there is going to at least commit themselves to a hypothesis, something that we can then test, rather than just be like non-committal. But meeting a monk on the street in Edinburgh, I asked him the question, what is the meaning of life, and for the first time I got a straight answer. Fantastic. You get an answer. You've got a theory now, a hypothesis. Now you can put it to the test. So he said the meaning of life is to understand who you are, understand who God is, and to develop the relationship. So having received and having met someone brave enough to give a straight answer, and myself, lucky enough to have found somebody who was prepared to offer an answer to that question, then I was like, okay, well, let's try it. Someone's offered a solution. Let us put that into practice and test it out. Let's test it. See if it works. And I remember trying to really where my philosophy, on the philosophy course, like solipsism, everything. It's the brain in the jar theory. Like, I could just be a brain in a jar, and everything in the world, everything I come across, every person I meet, are just some kind of sensory inputs. They're not real. They don't necessarily need to be real. They're just some kind of sensory inputs coming into my brain. I'm just a brain in a jar. This solipsism, this is like, you could say it's very selfish or self-centered. I'm the only thing that I know it really exists, and everything else just could be an illusion. So when I heard about that, I want to find out about. Well, I'm going to try that. I'm going to try that. So I was going to the pub, at the bar with one of my pals. Yeah. You're just a figment of my imagination. It's a crazy philosophy. But there's lots of crazy philosophies out there, and one thing that I did gain from studying philosophy is an open-mindedness to at least entertain all kinds of different ideas, and really be open-minded, yeah. So anyway, yeah, I went to the monastery, and we spent a lot of time studying these Eastern esoteric books, about ancient books, like very similar to the Old Testament, and there's some Old Testament, you could say Old Testament books, in the Hindu tradition, dated within the tradition about 5,000 years old, but it's an oral tradition. They're saying we just wrote these down 5,000 years ago. The oral tradition goes way back, passing on from teacher to student, and they would learn from the teacher, pretty much like we do in a university. A student in whatever subject, engineering or medicine, goes on to be the lecturer in the next generation. Although, of course, we're saying that nowadays we have written material with which to jog our memories and help as a teaching aid. But they're saying that back in those days they didn't have that. They felt that their memory was strong enough. But yeah, I'm sure after 20 years of schooling, you're pretty conversant with all the material, and then you can teach that to the next generation without the need of written notes. And yeah, only the best students would go on to be the teachers of the next generation. But yeah, 5,000-year-old Old Testament Hindu books which I was reading, and fantastic, yeah, really fantastic. Really got to grips with Eastern theology, and the monastery that I attended, then it was a monotheistic Hinduism. As I was taught in high school, we were taught it was a polytheistic, pantheistic maybe religion, but no, the particular monastery I went to was a monotheistic. There's one monk actually who was giving some very nice classes. He's a pretty cool guy. He's called Chaitanya Charan, and he's based at a monastery in I think Mumbai. Yeah, it's called Chowpatty, Mumbai, and he gives some really nice online classes. And he kind of breaks it down. Is this tradition that we're following? He and I follow. Is it monotheistic? Well, we don't just worship a male god, we worship a male and a female. So but they're considered to be one. So it is monotheistic, but it's by monotheism. And then he described that, well, God comes in many forms. Sort of, every millennia, every few million years, God comes, and he can come in different forms. He can come in the form of a blue cowherd boy. That's Krishna. That's the origin of all the other forms. It says in these books. Another form he can come in is Ram, Lord Ramachandra. 2 million years ago. He was a human being, but he was green. That was his form, green human form. And then other forms: Varaha, the boar; Matsya, I think Matsya is a fish; Kurma, the tortoise. So all these different forms and incarnations and avatars. Narasingha, half man, half lion, avatar. So all these different forms. So by monotheism, but polymorphic by monotheism. So he's quite an amazing guy, and he's he broke it down. There's some other multi-level. He described it as multi-level as well. I don't want to breakdown down. I can't remember the details, but polymorphic bi-monotheism. But yeah, monotheistic Hinduism, and I'd been schooled in monotheism at in upbringing as a Christian, Sunday school, church school. We understood that there was one supreme God, one supreme Lord, and that's how I see things. And I was very happy to see that was also the understanding in the ashram here, but at the same time, there is an understanding that there's lots of lesser gods in Hinduism as well, and on my road from atheistic nihilism towards Hindu theism, then I passed through paganism. I reconnected to spirituality through understanding the divinity in nature, and part of paganism is a belief in lots of gods, pantheistic or polytheism. God of the sun, God of the rain, God of the wind, God of the moon, God of the earth, Mother Earth, and whilst that is that kind of belief is regarded well, I think, within Christianity, it is accepted in across the board pretty much in Hinduism. So what I found at this particular ashram was a marriage between my Christian beliefs and my pagan beliefs, a blending of the two, which suited me down to the ground. So another reason I wanted to find out more was how all that works, and what are the details, what are the intricacies of this theology. Another reason I wanted to join was to put on hold the how to describe, the Darwinian the natural selection, this desire to breed, desire to multiply, desire to procreate. It's a natural instinct. It's inbuilt within us. Obviously, sex is you could say the highest material pleasure. So there's that motivation, there's that drive, but the desire to raise a family, and to have a deep, meaningful relationship with a partner, and together with that partner to have children and to raise a family and enjoy the satisfaction of caring for others, of giving love. We like to, everyone likes to receive love, but it's more satisfying to try to give that love. I wanted to put that on hold, and that is, you could say, a unique, something that's unique about monks and monasteries and ashrams, is that it's expected of monks to be celibate. So we're putting that desire, that instinct, that natural desire, that drive, we're putting it on hold. And the ashram I was in, we weren't expected to take lifelong vows of celibacy, which I think that's fantastic. I know that in Christianity, quite a few of the orders, if you do become a monk, you're expected to take a lifelong vow of celibacy, and I think that's difficult. But all credit goes to those who do that and manage to do that, they find so much satisfaction in their relationship with God that they don't need to have a relationship with another human being in a sexual way. I mean, they'll have brothers in the monastery, bromance, brotherly love, the fraternity, the camaraderie of fellow monks of the same sex, the same gender, or in a nunnery, nuns, sisterly affection. But yeah, I thought I'll just put these desires on hold. They're still going to be there. I mean, we took vows. I was a monk for 10 years. I was an apprentice monk for the first 2 years, wearing a white robe, and then we were given orange saffron robes, and asked that at that point you commit to at least remaining as a monk, but staying celibate for the next 2 years. And those who took that vow, there's 5 of us at that ceremony, that cloth giving ceremony, and of those 5, one guy, he just lasted about a year, and I lasted a few years, and people lasted different lengths of time. Just one of those 5 is still wearing saffron, and he's actually recently left from the monastery here in Scotland and gone down to Leicester, where there's a big community of practitioners. I wanted to put it on hold and get to know myself. One of the last girlfriends that I had before I became moved to the monastery. She said to me, she said you need to get to know yourself more. That was something she pointed out, something lacking in myself. And perhaps one of the reasons why we split up. But she said, you need to get to know yourself more, and that those words kind of sunk deep into me, and I thought, I do need to do something to figure out who I am and what I'm about, and so going into the monastery, spending lots of time deep in meditation. This was something I could do to try to learn more about myself, and as well, challenging myself, putting myself in difficult situations. Also, I think this brings out, find out about who you are, how you react, how am I gonna manage in a difficult situation. So I recommend everyone. I recommend all, especially young people, to take time out from that, trying to find a partner, that kind of that competitive. You could say, in some circumstances, competitive, to chasing after a partner, trying to find the ideal partner. Is this person right for me? But always just it was a constant thing. On weekends, especially when I was drunk, that desire to find a partner became more prominent. The lustiness rose. The alcohol diminished my inhibitions and my self-control and my diminished my sobriety and my level-headedness and my like a kind of any kind of sense of internal satisfaction, and just I just want this, I want that. She's beautiful, I want her. I chase after her. I try to get her, but you kind of chase. It's always chasing after an illusion, chasing after something that isn't really there. I mean, the satisfaction comes in having a deep, meaning relationship with a committed partner, not in chasing after a beautiful girl who you may have a one night stand with. But where's the connection? It's just this physical sense of, orgasm, quick satisfaction, and then, the morning after you've got a hangover, and it's like, what now? What next? And it's kind of dissatisfying, and it's like chasing the mirage in the desert, isn't it? Trying to be happy by chasing the mirage in the desert. You think there's water over there, you run, you just never find it. It's not there. You run and you run and you run. The mirage just keeps moving away. That kind of shimmery, watery heat haze that's in the desert. You think it's water reflecting the light, but it's not. It's just to do with the illusion of this heat haze, and it just keeps moving further and further into the distance, like a donkey. You sat on the back of the donkey with a fishing rod, with a stick, with a string and the carrot, and the donkey moves forward trying to get the carrot. Because you're sat on the back, the donkey just, he can never get the carrot. So that's in a nutshell, this is the quest for happiness through satisfying the material senses. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. I wanted to really, really dedicate myself to, finding the purpose of life, to spiritual practice, serious, hardcore. Really go for it. And the reason I wanted to do that is because I saw my fellow graduates, my fellows there, of a same age to me, and they were really, really going for it in terms of career, in terms of getting their foot on the corporate ladder, graduate training schemes, all these kind of Goldman Sachs, Ernst and Young, all these big companies, Barclays Bank, get a job in finance, and they were really put through their paces. They were getting working really, really hard, overtime, 2-3 hours overtime expected every day. If you didn't pull your weight, if you couldn't do that, then you were out. Breaking all their attachments to friends and situation. Oh right, we're sending you down to the office in Southampton next week. Pack your bags, you're off to Southampton. What about my friends, my family, my partner? If you want to stay in this company, you're going down to Southampton, and then okay, we're sending you now to the office in London, we're sending you to the office in Nottingham. So these, my friends, my colleagues, my people in my family, this is how they were treated. It was really heavy, really serious, really hardcore. You had to be really committed if you wanted to get a promotion, if you wanted to rise through the ranks in this FTSE 100 company. Then you've got to just surrender to your boss, to your manager. And so similarly, I was like, well, okay, they're doing all that, and what are they doing it for? They're doing it for wealth, for status, for material acquisitions. Okay, well, that's the path they've chosen. If they want to do that, and if they want to do it for those reasons, well, fair play to them, fair enough. But I wanted to be like, well, I want to similarly commit myself hardcore to not to achieve this goal of some materialistic, whatever kind of goals that and you could say measured. You can measure them in terms of 60,000 grand, 60 grand a year. I'm going to get 70 grand a year. Whatever, some huge salary, but to another completely, you could say abstract, but a completely different goal, a different direction, just a completely different thing, some spiritual goal, connect, you're feeling inner fulfillment, inner satisfaction, no material opulence, nothing to show for what you've gained. Nothing at all to brag about or show off. Nothing. A monk, he has nothing. He's just a few bits of cloth and a set of wooden beads, and a sleeping bag on the hard floor. But similarly to those people on the graduate training scheme, really working hard, really going for it. 2 hours meditation. Really trying to get that mind to listen to the names of God, and working your bollocks off, on the farm, on the street, working really hard, shipped around from place to place. Pack your bags. 2 weeks. They told me you're off to Yorkshire for 2 weeks. 2 years later, I came back. You pack your bag like they were doing on these corporate schemes. So I have nothing to show, nothing to gain, no wealth, no house, no car, nothing to share for all of that endeavour, all of that hard work and toil, other than I know within myself that I've connected with God, and I feel right by Him, and that's all I have. I have nothing else to show for it. But I thank I have gratitude to the people who built the monastery, to the people who translated those books into English for the first time, only available since the 60s and 70s, 1960s, 1970s, and the people who facilitated my experience at the monastery. Well, I mean, another reason is that as an interested spiritualistic person, there's what they call the New Age, which is so many eclectic interest in shamanism, paganism, LSD and ayahuasca, and what else is New Age? All kinds of healing, sound healing, and using stone therapy and Reiki, and paganism, Egyptian, understanding about the Egyptian gods and the Norse gods and the Celtic gods, druidry, tarot cards. You go into these New Age shops, and all the things they have, Buddhist statues, all kinds of a whole plethora, a whole range of spirituality. A lot of them, tracing them back to the roots in tribal cultures in Africa and Asia and the Americas. And taking inspiration from these things, and like everybody else, I am, and I've always been a big fan of Native American spirituality. It's something I found out about, and something I got interested in, inspired me trying to do a vision quest, and reading books about it and learning about it. And shamanism, similarly, attending shamanic journeying sessions. So I tried a few different things. I was interested in a lot of different things and reading about a lot of different things. Also, I learned a little bit about Australian Aboriginal culture, because I felt that there's something that in this modern mechanized Western kind of alienated existence, something that we've missed. So let's take it back to the beginning, and find out, is there something living in a small community, a hunter-gatherer tribe, living together, working together, eating together, hunting together, or farming together, something more satisfying living like that, and is there some inherent spirituality? A lot of the tribes do have deep spiritual beliefs which enact out in their daily lives. And we could, a lot of let's call them kind of I would say arrogant. A lot of them in the world of academia. There's an arrogance that the culture and the people who live in a tribal culture still are people will condemn them as superstitious or backwards, but I take none of that. I can see that a lot of these people who live like that are happy, and I see a lot of the people who live in cities in England and the rest of the UK they aren't happy. So I think happiness is the acid test. Who are the happy ones? I wanted to really put myself on this fast track of dedicated spirituality, and not be the jack of all trades. Jack of all trades, master of none. So the opportunity came my way. I met monks from this particular monastery who said, if you want, we think you're suitable. If you want, you can come and give it a try at the monastery. And I thought, well, okay, yeah. I've been learning about all kinds of different spirituality, shamanism, Native American Indian, etc., paganism. But here is an opportunity for me to, not be a jack of all trades, but a master of none, but to really delve deep and take up one particular path and one particular practice and really run with it and go with it and try to help myself, try to transform myself with that. So I thought that's a good opportunity. When that opportunity came my way, I was like, okay, I'm going to take that. I'm going to take that opportunity. Another reason I came to live at this monastery is because there's a great tradition of music, and I've always loved music. I really got into music when I was about 13, and I discovered my dad's record collection, and he had a huge library, like so many LPs from the 60s, 70s, and 80s music. But when I was I guess late teens, I started going to really got into live music, and I was travelling every couple of weeks or so. I was going down to Manchester, catching the train, going to some gigs there, the Labatt's Apollo, Manchester Academy, and one or two other places. Going down there, I really got into live music, all the bands who were popular at the time, most of them. And I really like live music, and going to gigs in other towns around the place as well, around Chorley. Not a lot of live not big bands anyway, some small bands in my hometown Chorley, but other places nearby. We would go and watch bands play, and so I really got into live music, and I had this notion that a recorded album. I mean, one complaint people make is that, like, oh, this band, they sound great in the studio, but listen to them live, they're not actually that good, because in a studio, you twist it, tweak it, change all the knobs, and do it again and again and again until you get the best version. Whereas when you're playing live, you've got to be able to do it there and then. That's it, one song, you got to perform that song. So people can criticize like that and say, oh, a lot of bands these days are like good sound good on the album, but we don't sound as good live. So live music as a special. It's a special thing, and recorded album. Okay, they recorded it 2 years ago, 5 years ago. There's a sense in which it's kind of dead. But live music is alive, and there is a kind of a participatory aspect to there's the band, here's you're in the audience. Not just clapping and sing along, but it's kind of a shared music. It's something that's shared. It's I say the music is the, words. You can speak your mind in words, but singing music, it's the language of the soul. It goes deeper. It's something. There's a deeper connection, a more profound, transformative effect that can take place. It expresses emotion better, of course it does. And it can really pull at the heartstrings and tell a story in a song. And I was one time at a campfire at a festival down south, the Big Green Gathering, and we were just sitting around this campfire, and this guy just turned up out of the blue, plonked himself down, said, "Excuse me," there's only 2 or 3 of us sat around this fire. "Excuse me, would you mind if I played some songs?" And he pulled his guitar out and he started singing. And he started he was singing, but what he was saying, he was revealing some of the most private thoughts and things that he'd done through the song. And if he would have just to come down and start telling us about that, well, keep that to yourself, mate. We don't want to know. There's certain things should be kept confidential. But he was revealing them all, himself, where he was at in life, and what he was about through the music, through his songs, it made me realise that to be a successful singer, you do have to kind of wear your heart on your sleeve and really delve deep into your own soul and psyche and share those real deep inner truths. And if you do that as a sacrifice, as a service to others, and then because it's so true, people really can relate to that and connect with that, and then that's why they like that music and that what you're saying through that music. I've always loved music, and particularly live music. But when I came up to this ashram, then there was a lot of live music, and it's the mantra music, and we sing for God, to please God, and it's participatory. It's called kirtan. So there's one person who leads the kirtan. They sing a mantra, and they play the drum, and there's other instruments, and then everybody else there, like the choir, you all sing the mantra back in the same melody, same mantra, same melody. And so it's very participatory, and everyone dances as well at the same time. So it's incredibly better than just going and seeing a band in a pub, where you can dance, but you don't really join in. You're not obliged to sing. But in the kirtan, you're the choir. You got to sing it back, and just get into the music with the drum. And there was this one guy who was leading some of the kirtan when I first came, and he told me that he used to, before he was a monk, he was in a death metal band, and so that was the kind of style of singing he did. And I remember one time he was playing his drum, and he was singing, and his veins were popping out on his neck, singing just so just giving everything to this mantra. So to be there, right in the face, it's like it would be like being on the stage, or like the band jumped down into the mosh pit, and everyone's just doing it together. So those early experiences visiting the monastery, and my interest in music and live music was like, well, this is brilliant. This is and it's something we would do as monks as a daily practice. Every morning we would have a kirtan and really sing our hearts out in communion with God. So since I just started meeting the monks, and they'd been giving me general advice about life, Well, before I immediately before I moved to live here, I was I'd worked in a few different jobs, but I think I was unemployed. I was unemployed because I'd given up work. I'd given up work. I'd been exploited, kind of abused in the workplace, and I'd experienced that a couple of times, and so understanding what I knew about communism was this idea of the bourgeoisie and the proletariat, and the bourgeoisie being the wealthy, business owners who were just really interested in exploiting their workforce, basically paying them as little as possible, getting as much work out of them as possible, and that's the theory. That's the theory of communism. And so, because I'd experienced that working in an egg factory on a battery farm, packing boxes, just lifting them off an agency job, just lifting the boxes off, putting them on pallets, palletizing, and long hours, hard work, but quite good pay. But yeah, we weren't doing it quick enough, and there was one guy off sick. Another guy actually died while I was there. So a crew of 4 was down to 2, and we weren't doing it fast enough. And the boss came out with his stick, brandishing his stick. Rah! You need to work hard. I was like, what is this guy, doing? And I thought, I'm not. I'm being exploited. I'm being exploited here. And another reason for me wanting to quit work was again this Buddhist idea, what the Buddha did. I'm not gonna work. I'm not gonna do this. I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna sit in this tree. I'm gonna fast, and I'm gonna just kind of try to negate suffering, try to negate material existence. So with those 2 ideas in my head, I quit my job. Whatever job I had there in the battery farm, and so I was out of work, but I was struggling when I was out of work. That was my second period of unemployment. My first period of unemployment was really quite bad for my mental health. I was unemployed for 6 months, and I felt like as though my life had no purpose. I felt, I thought I was surplus to society. I had no contribution to make. But the second time I was unemployed for 6 months, I was like, well, I'm unemployed now. I'm going to use my time, and I was just using my time nicely. Actually, I was making myself a flask of soup and sandwiches, and heading out into the hills, into the forests every day, and sitting in the forest or on the moors, and sitting and listening to the sound of the birds chirping and the wind in the trees, and doing some meditation. So I was using my time wisely, but still after 6 months, and spending a lot of time reading as well, reading and studying. But after 6 months, I was kind of struggling. I was lucky that I've got middle class parents. Eventually, they did kick. My dad did kick me out of the house, chucked all my belongings out into the street, and yeah, I mean, I feel privileged to have had the time that I did have to to just try to explore what is life for. But yeah, I did want to work. I wanted to work, but I wanted to work for something that I felt was compatible with my own values. For example, I wouldn't want to work for a bank or other company which is known for wanting to exploit people and invest its money in nefarious enterprises. I wouldn't want to work for that. I want to stick to whatever ethical principles, moral values I have, and I probably, it's practically impossible to not break them, but at least try to, at least within whatever is within my small influence, my small capabilities, my small power, at least try to imbibe some principle. So I did want to work, but I wanted to work for something that matched my values, and then finding the monks who although you could also criticize them, what practical value are they contributing to society, being as they are, kind of aloof, transcendental, just absorbing themselves in meditation on God and in study of scriptures describing God and his qualities and his pastimes, his God's God's play on earth. Are they of any are they making any contribution, any tangible positive contribution, considering that there is, well, I mean, if we do try to summarize some of the world's problems, I mean, war is a big problem, conflict, isn't it, aggression, on a national basis as well as on a community and individual basis, although you could say, well, a Darwinian could argue, well, that's natural selection, the survival of the fittest. If Russia, destroys a Ukraine, then according to natural selection, then, well, you say, well, these are the ones who are fit to survive. As that's the theory applied to the animal kingdom, and if you apply it to human civilization, or, well, you could say that's uncivilized, that humans act like animals, attacking each other. I mean, from my point of view, there's no need for humans to fight with each other. Dogs fight because they can't speak. They don't have the ability to articulate their viewpoint. And if two conflicting parties are able to articulate their viewpoint and with some mediation and some compromise, a peaceable agreement can be settled upon for all. This is the opportunity afforded in the human form of life, that we have the ability, we have the speech, we have the ability to think and rationalize and compromise. Something lacking in other animals. As well other things that I've completely lost my train of thought. I wanted to work for something that I believed in, and so you could say, well, the monks are, what practical contribution are they making to society? Problems like wars, other problems facing society. You could say there's the climate change problem. Some people contend that. Other problems facing society. Well, there's a mental health epidemic. Well, the work of the monks is actually you could say is in that field. Mantra meditation is clinically proven to be very beneficial for mental health, mental good health. But whatever problems are facing society, which might or might not be addressed by the monks or by other groups, there's lots of problems. There's lots of problems in society, social problems, individual problems. But the monks. I think the monks are making a contribution, a positive contribution. My conclusion is that I recommend anyone young, particularly if someone's a young person at the beginning of their journey of life, and ahhing, what am I going to do? What career should I follow? What path will I take in life? I mean, I took a gap year. When I was 18, between college and university. And I actually just went to live in Sweden. I went to live in Sweden for a few months, just to change the scene, see things from a different angle, different point of view. It was refreshingly different and very outdoorsy. I had a great time in Sweden. But anyone who's at that period in life, I recommend to take time out. See, there's a parallel between going to the monastery and joining, although it would sound opposite, joining the army. In Western countries, not all of the countries, I know. I'm talking about like a conscription, or it's expected that all the men go into the army for a year, and this is still a practice. They stopped this kind of thing in the UK. I don't know when, maybe the 1950s. But in Norway and Sweden and Finland, all the young men go into the army for a year. When they're 18, and they spend a year in the army. I think it's the same in Germany. I don't know if they do that in France, but a lot of European countries, this is the norm. And you learn how to shoot, and there's you make friends with the guys who are in your company, a brotherhood. But what I want to draw the parallel that similarly in a lot of the countries in Southeast Asia, Vietnam, other countries around there, then similarly all the young men aged 18 are expected to go in the monastery for a year. And similarly, it does them the world of good. Like I can only speak from my own experience, but as a young man, messy, disorganized, lazy. This is how I describe myself. And then I spent some time sailing with some guys from the Royal Navy, and that experience, and also further developed in the monastery, is that you're taught discipline, self-discipline, regulation, keeping your personal belongings clean and tidy, keeping your personal body clean and tidy, shaved, haircut, tidy, nice. These are some of the similar qualities and lessons that are learned as you learn them in a year in the army in Europe, as you learn in a year in the monastery in Southeast Asia. The difference, of course, is that you're taught how to use a rifle if you join the army, and in the monastery you're taught how to pray on some prayer beads. Probably that's in fact that's funny, because they are. I do often think of them as like bullets on a string of ammo, and as you chant the mantra on each bead, I'm like firing a bullet, like you're feeding a row of bullets through a machine gun, shooting down in the mind all these desires for selfishness. So if anyone's a young person, I recommend you try and find your local monastery. When you're young, you've got time, and you've got if you're not yet got kids to look after, then this is an opportunity you can take. And then most people do have families like myself, and this is like you could say it's like a 20-year investment, looking after children, helping them to grow until they're big enough to to fly the nest. Humans actually, isn't it, are of all the different animals, they take the longest, isn't it? Like a horse, as soon as it's born, it can stand on its legs, and within, I think, I don't know, 6 months, a year, it can run off and it'll be away from its parents. But humans take, how long do they take? 15 years, 20 years before they're ready to stand on their own 2 feet. One thing amongst others that make the human organism, the human form of life, unique amongst the animal kingdom. We are animals, but there's something else, that other things that make us very different as well, similarities and differences. But there's that period of life in the beginning, before you have a family, and then the period after you've had a family. My wife, she's from Bulgaria, so in the monastery there in Sofia, there's a lot of retired men who have joined their monastery, and similarly wearing the saffron cloth, and they're able to do a lot of work around the monastery and help out with things. So those are really the two times, and it's especially good when you're young, you can experience that, and then after the family's grown and flown the nest, and then again, you can rededicate yourself to spiritual practice and pilgrimage, travel to holy places and hear from holy people. That opportunity is afforded again later in life, when we prepare for death and for the next life, whatever that's going to be. So there's a lot of good monasteries in the UK, a few that I know of. Well, there's a famous one in France, in Bordeaux, Plum Village it's called, Thich Nhat Hanh. He was there, Plum Village. And then the ones I know of in the UK, there's a Conishead Priory, that's a Buddhist one near Ulverston, and then there's Samyling near Moffat, that's near where I live, that's in Scotland. There's Plushcarden, that's a Catholic monastery up in the northeast, I think near Elgin in Scotland. And there's Nunraw, I'd love to go there, I'm hoping to visit. It's a Cistercian monastery near Haddington in East Lothian. I think there's a Buddhist monastery in, is it Pocklington in Yorkshire, on the east side of England there. These are some of the monasteries I know of, and I think if someone was to go to any of these monasteries, you'd have quite a similar experience, and you'd have a fantastic time getting deep within yourself and simplifying your life for a year or two, and just taking time out for yourself, really getting to know yourself. I think it's a fantastic positive experience that I recommend. And the world needs well balanced, chilled out, peaceful people who have a bit of who have a connection with God, and have faith in God, and some spirituality to share. This is what the world. This is what I think the world needs. And that's what can help society be better than whatever effect politics might have. If we want to try and help people. Okay, that's the end. Hope you like the talk. That's all from me. Jai. Jai means glory. Glory, glory.